Hello and good day to you. Today's video, we are demonstrating the use of the Clip Studio Paint Text tool in designing a 3-color typography greeting card topper. Open the software, click on File, New. The use of work is illustration, and the file name is 3 colored text watercolor floral topper. So I've just typed 3 color text watercolor floral topper. Let me change it. Preset, I want it to be, so okay, let me leave it on cost. The unit is in inches. Custom, I'm going to use A5. You can resize it as we design the work. Or should let me use A5 first. We'll use A5. I'll resize it if I desire to resize, if I need to do that. Resolution 300 because I'm going to print it, and paper color is white. You can click into the color to change it to whatever color you want. You can click into the color history to use color palette that you've previously used, or you can go to color wheel and choose which of them you want to use. So I'll leave it in color history. When you're happy with the information, click OK. Here on the work surface, I'll just quickly sketch a flower using I'm using a graphics tablet and a stylus to help me in sketching. Using the pen tool, in the sub tool, I'm going to use for effect line, and the brush size. Let me just try this 3. Okay, I want it a bit thin, so I'm going to use 1.5. I'll use the color, let me use burnt red, then dark red or maroon red to sketch. Okay, and in the layer palette, in the tool palette, we'll take the ruler. Sub tool of the ruler we'll select symmetrical ruler, and in the tool property of the symmetrical ruler, the number of lines is going to be 3. Step of angle 90. Create at editing layer, check, and check step of angle. You can increase the size. You can increase the angle as you desire. So I just click into the work surface. Now we see the symmetrical ruler. And we've set our pen tool, but I'll just go through it again. Select a pen tool, take a color of choice. Subtool for the pen is for effect line. Brush size 1.5. Opacity is 100. Post correction is on bar 2. Anti-aliasing none, and then we start sketching. So I just zoom in so that you see, starting from the middle, I'm just going to try and sketch a petal. So I've sketched this petal, and if you notice, if we take a look at it, the lines are thin here, so I'm going to make it a bit thick because we're going to select. That's too thick, so I'm going to go back to edit, undo, select a thin size brush and just go for it. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll come back to 1.5. In the layer palette is activated. Select we're going to use the watercolor brush to color, but first we need to select the flower. So I'm using the auto select tool. Click into the flower, the shape of the flower, and select the flower. And select the flower. Make sure there's no selection around the border of the design. If there's a selection, you have to undo. Go back with your pen tool and make sure you close every opened line so that the lines are enclosed. Select the watercolor brush, add a new layer first, then select the watercolor brush. Take a color of choice. So I'm going to pick an orange color. Let me use this one. Okay. And in the watercolor tool, select the watercolor brush, activate the color you want. The subtool palette of the watercolor should be transparent color, and the brush size, I'm going to just make it large, so just to fill in 60. Then in the tool property, opacity is 80, amount of paint is 20, density of paint is 50, color stretch 70, hardness all bars on, brush density 80, stabilization 2, and the brush size I'm using 60. So we just remember we're working on a new layer, so just flood fill. If you don't want it dark, if you want it light, let me go back. If you want it light, you can use a smaller size brush and move the ruler. Just select the layer with the ruler, then just move the ruler into this new layer that we've created, so that as we color, we can color all together. So I'll take the size brush and I'm working on the new layer. And with the watercolor, you can create some effects. Can even go back, resize, and just make sure not. Then then in the tool palette, select the blend tool. Soft of the tool is blend. The blend tool, sub tool, blend. You can select small size and you can just blend the painting. If you notice, as we blend, it's not blending, even if the symmetrical ruler is on, it's not blending the work. It's not blending them together. You have to blend each petal separately. So add a new layer, select another color of choice. I'm going to use yellow, pale yellow. We'll move the ruler into this new layer that we've created, and then we'll just color in. And using the blend tool, just going to blend it. Can use a smaller one, but I won't use the smaller one this time. I want to be a bit fast. I'm blending in a flickering stroke movement, as if creating feathering stroke. If we want, okay, we finished that. So you go to select, deselect. So here we have our petal. I'm just going to take the ruler off it and move it to the bottom. So we have our petal here. Because we are going to I'm just going to duplicate, right click on the layer, duplicate it, close the original. Do same for the main layer, right click on it, duplicate, close the background layer, and then you can merge. You can say merge visible. But if the background layer is not closed and you just want to merge, just move the layer you want to merge close to the other one and say merge with layer below. So now we have a merged layer. Right click on it, duplicate it, right click again, duplicate. So I duplicate it twice, close the original, and select the operation tool. Activate one of the petal layer, select the operation tool, and with the scale, just the scale tool, just rotate to create an angle for you. Then you can click OK. And here we have a nice petal and it's overlapping. If you want the edge of the petal, that means you have to, like this outline, you can color it in. If you don't want the edge of the petal, you can leave it. But if you want the edge of the petal, you can color it in. So for those who want the edge, activate that layer, select the auto select tool, click into, and make sure it's selected, that the selection is in the line along the petal line, or the line out of the petal. Add a new layer with a paint brush, watercolor brush. Just go over and paint. You can also, if you don't like it, if you don't like the color, you can decide to use a pale color. Just going to one part has not been selected, so I'll go to the other layer and make sure it's activated. I'll come back to this new layer and paint it. So now we have a nice color around the edge. So I'm just going to duplicate it and close the original. I'll move it up and merge. If I want to, I can merge it with this one. So merge with layer below. I'll just close this, then duplicate, and we rotate. If we want to resize to make one of the petals smaller than the other, we just drag the scale and do that. Then click OK. So we have a nice petal. Add a new layer above all. Then get the for effect line pen tool. The pen tool, sub to palette, select for effect line. The pen size, we're going to select something like 0.7. Let me see the size. It's going to be okay. In the color palette, we're going to take a dark red. Working on the new layer, we just draw stamens. Add another new layer, and we're going to draw. We'll use the yellow for it, but this time we're going to make the yellow very bright. Take a bright yellow. And if we want to, we can add white to it, a hint of white. Brush size, I'm going to use 0.5. Then we zoom in and just put a dot. Just to put a dot. We just need a little bit of highlight on it. In the layer palette, we can merge these stamens together. So merge it with layer below. So now we have a nice flower. Close the background and I'll merge visible. I'm going to draw another one quickly. So this time I'll use a smaller brush. See the for effect line brush to pen tool. I'm going to use let me see. Yes, okay, that's fine. Size 1, brush size 1. So working on a new layer, just want to make sure it's a new layer. I'm going to just So the overlapping petal here, I'm going to add a new layer for that. I'm just going to add an overlapping leaf. If I close it, you will see just a petal. Select the auto select tool, and we're going to select this petal. For my color history, I'm going to use the same color. The watercolor brush, I'm painting on a new layer. Then using the blend tool, just going to take a large size 5 and I'll try and blend it a bit. Wrong brush. So and I'll add a new layer and use the the yellow, the watercolor brush. I'm just going to blend that. Still in a feathery stroke. Select, and I'll select the outline. add a new layer and use use the color dropper to pick a nice shade. And working on the new layer, I'm going to watercolor. This wasn't selected. I have to go back and select this part. Come back to the new layer. Using the watercolor brush, I'm just gonna fill the the part wasn't selected, so I'm going to select it. So I'm going to activate this other layer, the overlapping petal, add a new layer, and I'll start painting. So pick an orange. And because this overlapping petal is closer, I'll make it a bit darker. Add a new layer. Use the yellow watercolor, and I'll just using the blend tool, feathery strokes. This upper part of the petal, I'll do same. Come back, I'll select the up. Let me see, select. I'll select only the upper part, but I'll paint them on same layer. So because the petal is coiling, I'll use a lighter shade than its below petal, because it's a coil. It's a lighter shade. Then the other layer, I'll add the yellow, and with the blend tool, this time I'll reduce the size of the blend tool, and I'm just going to go in and be fast about it and just blend. Then I'll go select the select. Back into the outline of the petal outline. We'll select it. We'll add a new layer and watercolor it in. So we just fill those missed lines in. Finish, we'll say select the select. So here we have a kind of folding petal. You can add stamens if you want to, so I'll just add stamens to it. Let's see where we're working. Okay. So between these 4 petals and this overlapping petal, I'm going to put our stamens. So I'm going to put it in between here. Add a new layer, select the pen tool, and select. So I'm just going to draw stamens there. Then select the yellow. No, that's not the yellow. Just going to put. I'm going to add white to it. So here we have it, but I've not finished. I'm just going to say I'm just going to, if you want to, you can duplicate and save the original in case you need to make any alteration, but I'm not going to. I like duplicating, so I'm just going to duplicate and quickly duplicate and save the originals. Now close the originals. Okay, so that's it. I'll just close this one and work with this. Closing the background, I'm just going to say merge visible because they are so. Okay, before I merge visible, sorry. Before we merge visible, we can move the petal. It's not properly arranged, so I'm just going to move it. With the operation to object selected, I'm going to make sure I activate the petal, the overlapping petal layer. Going to bring its blur, its line layer and its line art together. And I'm going to say merge with layer below, merge with layer below. Then I can move it and decide where I want it to be. So I can move it upward a little, which is a bit nice. And if you want to, you can scale it. So I can move it. I can rotate it a bit. I think I'll do that, and I'll just leave it like that. Then I can say merge visible, so that this flower merge together. Since we've saved the original, we have this flower here. So I'm just going to open the other one and open the background layer so that you see. I'm going to now resize this a little. Just scale it using the scale to resize it a little. Then activate the flower, the upper flower, the open flower, and just click OK. So I want to add leaves before we add our text. Okay, let me move this a bit. I want to move it upward a little so that, because I'm going to put birds there. I'm going to put this here. Then our text. Then we can resize it to for our text to fit in. or we can resize the canvas. So go to the bottom layer, add a new layer, and I'll change the color to green. I'll use a dark shade of green and I'll use a light shade of green. Select the pen tool. For now I'll use only the dark shade. Let me put the lighter shade in this one so that I don't need to come back here. So select a dark shade green, select pen tool, sub tool for effect line, and this time we need a large size because we just want to drag and we just want to do leaves. So I want to see how it's going to be with the leaves. So date undo, I'm going to make this about 20 and I'll just put leaves here, put that leaf here. So we'll use that one. I'll leave that one, we'll rotate it and alter it as we desire. So if you want to, you can add a new layer, but I won't do that. I'll just take a smaller size of brush. On this same leaf layer, I'm going to just add a leaf there. I think that leaf looks too big. Looks too big. So I'm going to get my eraser and do. So I use 70 for that. Let me go for 10. Use 12 or so. And there's a smaller size. This time I'll use 8 and I'll just go over the leaves. Okay, I'll leave that. Okay. I'll add a new layer, and this layer I'll use a lighter shade, not too light, a mid shade. So I'll go for something there, and I'll have to add a stem. So this. Oh, that's out of the. I don't need to go out. Okay. So I'm going to arrange my flower here first, and we'll quickly finish this flower. I think we need to move. So I'll move the petals. I'll move the stem. Move the leaves. Bring the leaf above so that it hides it. And I'll rotate it to fit. Now that my leaf is alright, I'll just duplicate the leaves and go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, so that I have it facing as to mirror it. And I'm going to rotate it properly. If I want to, I can scale it. Click on OK. So our flower is taking shape. Lastly, if you want to add highlight, you can add highlight to it. So can just add a little highlight with white pen for effect line pen too. Just a thin one, and on the stem I'm just going to add a little highlight I'll add a new layer. This layer is going to be the bud layer. So select the green, eyedropper to select a green, take the same color of green with the stem, and I'll just add something like that's too small, so I'll go for 3 and just add his stem, and I'll add one. So going for the watercolor brush, add a new layer, select the watercolor brush. I hope I didn't. Okay. Select the watercolor brush, select color of choice. So I'm going to select same color, and we'll zoom in to paint. The brush size, going to make it about 3. Let's see. Just want to paint board here. And you can reduce the brush size. You can reduce the brush size as you desire. So I'm going to paint this one. Sorry, I didn't add a new layer. I'm going to make that one yellow, and I'm gonna paint it in. So just make it. And if we want to blend, we'll use a small brush to blend. Just a 9 stroke. So here we have a nice flower with buds coming out of, with budding flower with buds. We have a nice flower. So I'm just going to try and arrange this flower that is not yet opened. Just going to put it close down here. I think that's nice to just be close. We don't need to put a stem there, we just need to put it as if it's coming out from there. So we'll finish the flower. Before we add our text, we can add our text here. So we finished the flower. I'm going to add the text here. So just select the text tool. And I'm going to say in caps lock on, and I'm going to type. Let me put it in black first. Let me select black. Color is, I'm using black. Then I'll type cap locks on. I'll say blushing blossoms or blushing blooms. Blushing blooms, blushing blossoms. You can resize it here if you want to. Well, I said 3 colors, so okay. I'll call it Fantasy because I said 3 colors, so I'm going to say Fantasy Blushing Blossoms. And I'll just resize. You can resize it here if you want to. You can resize it in there. So just to take, not to take too much time, I'm going to resize it here first and just move it down. Select the text tool again. Click into the text, select the full text, and we're going to change the size of the text. So click into the pen editing tool of the text tool. We're going to change the font. This first font, I'm going to change it to, I'll select only the first one now, the Fantasy, and change it to something. Let me see which Fantasy one is. No, I can't even read that. So I'll change it to Blue Ridge Heavy, then select the blushing, and we'll change that to a different font. Let's see the Belfast Heavy, and the blossom we'll leave it at Apple Boy BNT, and we'll resize that one differently. So blushing, select it, and I think that's size is all right. Should have been bigger than the blossom. Then the Fantasy, we select only the Fantasy, and we think that's fine. So for the Fantasy, still selected, click into the color of the editing tool, and we're going to select the color. So with the eyedropper tool, I'm just going to use the eyedropper tool to pick a color and click OK. I'll see if I like it. Fantasy. And we'll go to the blushing, select the blushing, only the blushing, click into the color, and we'll make it orange. And then go to the blossom, select the blossom, click into the color, and with the eyedropper tool, or from our, we can use the color history. So I'm using the color history here. So from the color history, we just use a previous color. We just use a previously used color. And when we are happy with it, we click the check. So here we have our 3 color text. So I'm going to just move it. If you want to, you can merge this flower to, you can duplicate them, or you can resize it. You can merge the flower together, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it at this. We just want the sentiments on here. Yeah. So it looks just plain to me, so I'm going to do something different. I'm going to enlarge the size. I'm just going to increase the size of the canvas. So to increase the size of the canvas, I'll go to Edit, make sure I'm not selecting anything. Okay. I'll go to Edit, Change Canvas Size. And here we have the size of the canvas. The width is 5, so I'm going to change it. And the reference point, I want to start from the middle. So I want it to change equally. I want it to expand equally. So I'm going to tell it to change to 10 or 10 inches for the height, and 10 inches for the And if you can see it, you can see that because we said the reference point should be in the middle, it's giving us equal distance or equidistance around the card. So we're just going to, and it's in inches, so we're going to click OK. So now we have our card. I can close this first and just move this. Close the visibility of the text, and I'll just move the petals first. I didn't duplicate to save my flower, so I think I'll just do that because I really like this flower in layer and I would like to use it for something else. So I'm just going to duplicate to save it. Just duplicating the original and closing the visibility of the original, then using the duplicate to work because I want to make visible when I finish duplicating. So it's supposed to be duplicate, okay? And, but I won't duplicate the text. So now we have that. Let me see if they are well duplicated. Okay, so I'll right click on one of them and say merge visible. Now we've merged visible. With the operation tool, I'm just going to move it to the side. And I'll reveal the visibility of the text layer and the background layer. So I'll activate the text layer. And if I want to, I can now resize it because I have enough space now. And I can, if you desire it to be close to the text, so that it will be as if the text is the one bringing the sentiment, that's fine. You can do that. So you can just leave it like this, as if. So to make it, it's still kind of blank to me. As a greeting card designer, I want to add something else, a frame around it. I'll just work in front, add a new layer. You can use you can work it. You can do it in vector. You can do it in raster. So I'll do it in vector. Let me do it in vector, since I did one in raster before. Not in this video. The previous video I did one in vector using so select the figure 2. We're going to create it in vector. Sub 2 will take an ellipse shape. Then in the tool property, we'll tell it to its line fill. It's going to be just lines. We are not using fill this time, so it's going to be in lines. Anti-aliasing and check. The brush size, let me see if we drag it. Okay, that's 8. That's fine. So we'll use 8. And the color, we can decide to use green. We can decide to use. So I'm going to use green. So pick a color, nice color, green. And in the layer palette, I'm going to create it in a vector layer. If you have a measurement, you go to view, grid, and you can use the grid to, so that you design it properly. You can use the grid for measurement or for as a guide. So we just drag it across. And we created it on a vector layer so that we can edit it. In case you want to edit, you can go to the correct line node, sub 2, and you can use the control point. Just click on it. You can use the control point and alter it if you want to. You can bend it to alter it if you want to. But we are not going to alter it. We just want to create on a vector layer. So I'm going to go back. So go to view and grid and uncheck it so that we see our work. Now we have a beautiful topper. Now the topper is nice. Now I'm going to move the text a bit down. As I said earlier, if you want to, the text looks so small now. Okay, for such a frame, I'm going to just put it and to be as good. I think I like this one. It's a topper. It has to be bold. If we had created it on a raster layer, this if we had created this ellipse shape or circular shape on this circular frame on a raster layer, would have just like use the eraser tool to erase it. But instead, what I'm going to do, if you don't want to remove this flower, if you don't want to bring it up, or you want it to weave in and out of the design, because we have duplicated it before, I think we have one here. If you are very careful, you can duplicate it again and bring it to the top. Then you can move it above and line it properly over your design so that it will be as if the flower is coming out of the design. But if you are not that careful about it, you can duplicate the actual this merged flower, and you have to erase every other area around it and bring it to the top. You can bring it to the top. It's all right if you bring it to the top. So since I'm demonstrating, let me do that. So I'm just going to duplicate it. You don't need to close the bottom one. You just need to duplicate and bring it to the top. But remember, you have this stem and leaves coming out. So with the eraser tool, you can now go in, and where the circle, you have to zoom in properly, and where the circle it's in the design, you delete those parts. So you have to go in and you have to be very careful. You can also use the auto select tool, because one is in vector and one is in raster. So you can use the auto select tool. You just select, so we can click into the design, and as it appears, if it's appearing, we can just use the eraser tool and clean and erase this area. So where the design appears. So if I do that, so click into the design using the auto select tool. Let me bring this one up just for the purpose of demonstration. So where the design is, all we need to do is get the eraser tool and just erase only that part, and we'll have a nice erased edge. You don't need to erase to the flower, you just need to erase only this part, and you have a nice erased edge. So if you see it, if I do undo, you will see the design. So you just need to come in and erase this part, and you have a nice erased edge. And if you don't like the bottom tool, you can still go with the tool. Just click on the outer part, activate the flower layer, the flower you've moved up the layer, and just come in here and you can erase. You can do same for the others, and if you want to, you can come into the bottom one and erase it, and your design will be in the frame. So our design is in the frame now without the edges showing. We've done technique of hiding this hiding the edge of our design. So I don't think we will need this other one, so I'm just going to close it, and I don't think we need this other flower there, because we've done different technique on how to make the edge of our topper lines to delete unwanted element on our topper. So with the, I'm going to bring the font up forward because I just noticed that it's still done. So I'm going to bring the font forward, and here's our beautiful card using the text tool. Join 3 colors of the text tool to create a nice topper for a greeting card. So let's save our work. To save it in layer format, we'll say File, Save As, and I'll save it in Clip Studio format. You can come in here later to save it as Photoshop document to enable you open it in other graphic software. And you can also save as JPEG. So just say greeting card, and I'll say save. So come in again and save it as PSD because I want to open it in other software. Then I can take it and manipulate it the way I want it to be. Because I'm saving in PSD, it's going to change this vector into raster. That's why even if you have to save in PSD, you still need to save in Clip Studio format so that you can edit to make some of your work editable, especially the text. So because of this text, that's why this message is prompting me. So I'll say so here I'll say yes. And to export, can export as a single layer. So I'll say export as JPEG, and I'll tell it to save here. You can specify the resolution, the output size. If you want to reduce the resolution, you can do it here. Output size. So I'll leave that resolution. And also you can reduce the quality here if you want to. Just click on this arrow key and you can slide the buttons to reduce the quality or the file size. But I'll leave it at 100 and I'll click OK. Thanks for joining me for this video of using the Clip Studio Paint text tool in designing a 3-colored text floral topper greeting card. Until next time, happy crafting, happy designing, and bye for now.